The world is waking up, and you finding your way here today is no coincidence. The spirit world always has a way of guiding us where we most need to be at the absolute perfect time. I'm your host, Lindsay Morlock, and you're listening to the Guided Podcast, where we explore how the spirit world works on our behalf to guide us along our paths. This is where you'll learn how to live a life that is both conscious and connected, so you can supercharge your pathway to healing and open to life's magic and miracles. Come along this journey to see how guided you truly are. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Guided Podcast. Catherine Ann, our resident intuitive astrologer, is here this week to dive deep into the energies surrounding the upcoming new moon in Libra, which is also a solar eclipse on October 2nd. So, Catherine, take us away.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. So last time we spoke, we talked about the lunar eclipse, and we talked about how eclipse time is a time of endings and beginnings and change, and that there were going to be choice points that happened from the lunar eclipse all the way through the next few months. And so this solar eclipse that happens just 2 weeks later is a continuation. It is another one of those potential choice points. It's also part of that ending and beginning theme. However, with the lunar eclipse, it's more focused on the ending. And we talked about what is being allowed to come up now because of this ending. The solar eclipse, it's about beginnings and bright new opportunities. So it's not necessarily, although because they're within 2 weeks of each other and it's this whole portal, it could be you have that ending and you see that beginning right away, or just a beginning comes about, then potentially creates an ending because now you're going to begin something new, but it comes to you in the form of a beginning first. That's the difference of the solar eclipse energy. So solar eclipses happen with new moons, and as we've talked about many times with new moons, these are seed planting times. These are beginning times and the start of a cycle. So this is basically solar eclipse is like new moon on, massive expansion of that energy, right? It's the very, 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 very big new moon. So while we typically say the new moon is a seed planting time, and so you don't necessarily see what's happening, you're bringing that first intention and planting the seeds in the dark, in the soil, that first intention. The solar eclipse, because it's such a bigger new beginning energy, you could actually see, whoa, new beginning happened, as opposed to idea that I want to set in motion. So that's the kind of the basic energy of the solar eclipse versus the lunar eclipse. So this is a solar eclipse new moon in Libra, and Libra is a time where we think about relationship. We think about it's the balance, justice, the scales, all of that is relationship, because in order to balance, it's how is one thing in relationship to the other. So this could be relationships with people, but it really is about relationship in general. Relationship with people or things or concepts, behaviors, patterns. It's the concept of relationship. And so this new moon is going to really have us potentially start a new beginning that relates back to all the way back to July of 2023, when the South Node went into Libra. And we had talked back in the lunar eclipse about how the nodes are what make something, what make a new moon or a full moon become an eclipse. And we've been on this Libra-Aries axis. So this is a new moon in Libra with the South Node in Libra. And so we've been working on that since July of 2023. And the South Node is about releasing and letting go. So what have we been gradually working on since July of 2023 that needs to be released in order to bring more balance and harmony in regards to the word relationship? So I'm going to give you a couple examples. If Libra is in your 10th house, which has to do with about career and public reputation and legacy, it's the relationship that you have with those concepts. How do I feel? Is there something I need to let go about what career means to me? or what I want my legacy to be. What do I need to release in order to move in a more harmonious, balanced position in that area? It's not saying I need to let go of something so that I can have a drive, like that action of Mars. It's not saying because I'm going to plow through and I'm going to drive forward. It's actually the opposite. It's letting go to bring something into balance. And by bringing that into balance, you may feel more harmonious in that area of your life. So maybe you have Libra in your seventh house, your relationships, your one-on-one relationships. This could be like marriage, or it could be business partners. Is there a pattern that needs to be let go of? That specifically is going to be dealing with people. Again, we're talking about this codependency axis. And are there patterns that need to be let go of? Are there actual people that need to be let go of? Because they don't allow you to be in harmony in your one-to-one spaces. So is it time to let go of a client who is, despite all efforts, just not allowing you to have a harmonious work relationship with them? Is it letting go of a partner, a romantic marriage partner, because you've come to this place since July of 2023 where you go, you know what? This relationship actually is not the type of one-to-one relationship that I feel brings my life into balance. So that in that area, it's very much people. In other areas, and we're going to go through actually what it represents for everybody, but for other areas, it could be health and wellness. It could be groups. It could be even belief systems. So what needs to be released or let go of in order to bring this area back into harmony? And we've been working on this for a long time. So this is not going to be anything new, right? We had actually a lunar eclipse in Libra in March of 2024. So you may have really felt there was an ending during that time. For sure, that could have happened. And now you're in the place of, okay, is there something a little bit more? Is there a tail end? Because remember that these nodes change every year and a half, and Libra is going to move out. The South Node's going to move out of Libra in January. So we're just at the end of all of these lessons and experiences on this axis. And so now we're going to be wrapping these themes up. So at the time of the solar eclipse in Aries back in April 2024, Saturn and Mars were in conjunction in Pisces. And it was a big deal. It was Saturn and Mars speaking very loudly during this Aries solar eclipse. And it was action and committing to really moving forward. And Aries is, and I'm going to do for me. And that solar eclipse, right? That's a new moon. I'm going to really start something for me. So the reason I bring this up is because I feel like this now solar eclipse in Libra on the other side of the chart is an echo of that eclipse, because Saturn and Mars are also, again, very much in play. But this time, instead of a hard aspect that's forceful in action, it's a soft, flowing, harmonious trine between Saturn and Mars. And so I just kept feeling that now this beautiful trine between Saturn and Mars that has, like, Mars has now moved into, instead of this harsh, I've got to do something, now it's moved into let's work together. Also just happens to be in this also beautiful trine between the three of them with Venus. So there's this beautiful grand trine between Mars, Venus, and Saturn. So we are joining masculine and feminine and commitment. And I love that this is happening in Libra because we're balancing masculine and feminine and making a harmonious commitment. But what really kept coming to me when I looked at this chart was, it's like there's a grace or a softness now in play. That Aries solar eclipse was so loud And we know it was loud. It was all over the news, right? Everyone was flying or driving to be able to see the totality of this eclipse. It was loud. This is not a loud eclipse. This is soft and graceful. And the phrase that Spirit gave me was the power of a whisper. So I know in classrooms, if the teacher whispers, the students have to listen by calming down to hear the whisper. And it can be a really powerful strategy. And that's what this eclipse feels like to me. It's super powerful in its quietness, in its softness, in its grace. So yes, could be a new beginning that you didn't expect, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be jarring with these other elements here. It feels to me like I'm so excited. I totally see how this has been building over the last year because it all seems to be coming into alignment. And I feel like I have that support of Saturn to know that I can do this. But that leads me to the theme, which is you can do hard things. So even though I just said all of this lovely softness and grace and how powerful a whisper is, Spirit actually said the theme is you can do hard things. And I think the reason why is because they followed that up with balancing relationships in my life with my own needs is important.
Wait, say that one more time.
Balancing the relationships in my life with my own needs is important. And because we've been working for just over a year on letting go of things in our Libra area of our life that are not harmonious or do not or lead us into a codependent pattern or don't allow us to include ourselves into the equation, that's where it might be hard. I actually have to have this conversation. If you are one of those people where to bring balance to your one-on-one relationships means a letting go of a person, that's a hard conversation. And you can do hard things, is what Spirit says. You can do hard things. You have worked this last year plus in learning how to put yourself into the equation, how to recognize that you matter. And you don't have to do it with bluster. It doesn't have to be some big explosion. It's the power of a whisper. I'm ready to start something new. So it's an ending that happens because you're ready for something new because of all that you've learned. And that's a positive ending, right? Doesn't always feel good. Still might be hard, but you're doing it for you because you now have acknowledged your own needs are important. And if whatever relationship you're in, whether it's with money, a person, food, whatever, is not balanced and not supporting your needs, you have to do the hard thing to bring that into balance. So
I think that's a good reminder because so often we go right to people when it comes to relationships, but sometimes the hard things really are within the relationship within ourselves even, right? Like I know one of the things I've been working on for a while now is to prioritize myself, prioritize my dreams, prioritize my purpose. And so naturally my attention is being drawn to all the ways that I put everybody else before what I need to do for me, because it's more comfortable to do that. Right? Because my stuff is a little bit scary and more uncertain. It's easier to just focus elsewhere. That feels more like I have a more knowing around what to do. But within myself, it's like, ooh, now I got to take a risk for me. And in light of this last full moon, which was all about dreams, it almost seems like we're now being pushed to even do the hard thing, which is maybe putting ourself and our dream front and center.
yeah, I think so. So in some lines of astrology, they're going to talk about the South Node being the place where we're most comfortable. In some lines that think of as the chart of showing progressive lifetimes, it's information you already came in with because you had garnered it in other lifetimes. And I like to think of that as it's the comfort zone, right? Which is why it needs to be released. Because if we sit in our comfort zone, we're robbing ourselves of some growth and some new experiences. And so that doesn't mean throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It just means not allowing the comfort zone to rob you of the new experience. So a couple things I just wanted to point out about this beautiful trine with Venus, Mars, and Saturn. So Venus, Saturn is about having satisfactory relationships, committing to a relationship, having good working partnerships, consistency and emotional maturity. That's a beautiful list of beneficial aspects of both Saturn and Venus: integrity and beauty, integrity and harmony, consistency and relationship. That's lovely. And then we have Mars, Saturn, which is focused and disciplined. I'm going to work hard and I'm going to have persistence. I can get things done. It's also that's tempered with the steadfastness of Saturn. It's deliberate non-aggression. So I'm acting, but I'm being deliberate as opposed to impulsive or aggressive. Also, all beautiful qualities of Mars and Saturn. Mars gets stuff done. And Saturn is going to just hold the reins back so that we can get stuff done, but in a deliberate, persistent way. And then Venus, Mars together is that beautiful yin and yang, that combining the masculine and the feminine, combining self-assertion and harmony. It's balancing feelings, balancing what I need, what we need. It's not all action. Mars would be all action, and Venus is all receiving. So it's receiving and acting at the same time. Mutual benefit. So all three of those lists that I just named off are all working together. So you have the benefit of all of those beautiful qualities supporting the change, the newness, the new beginning that is coming into fruition from this eclipse. And that's lovely. Also, this was true during the Libra eclipse. We didn't talk about it, but it's still true now. The three outer planets are also in harmonious relationship to each other. So Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune are all in a beautiful relationship to each other. And I see that as the outer world, your outer world, outside of just your, because they're called the transpersonal planets, right? So it's not just your own innerness, but out in the consciousness, they're all working together too. So you are being supported not only in that internal, what do I need to do, but you're also being supported in the big picture during this eclipse time. And I just think that's a lovely thing to mention. This eclipse, when I looked at the chart, the planets, although they're in harmonious relationship to each other, aren't all in their favorite places to be. And then we have all the outers are in retrograde. Saturn's in retrograde, Neptune's in retrograde, Uranus is retrograde, Pluto's retrograde. So they're all in reflection mode. So it's not, although Mars is involved in this, and it is, I can do hard things. This is not frenetic. This is when I looked at the chart, I had this feeling of, and not depressed, but a depressing feeling, but like
a sigh, like a release almost, or it's like a relieving of pressure.
Yes, thank you. It's so hard to put into words a feeling sometimes, right? So it's like a sigh. That's a really good way to say it. And I keep getting drawn back to the power of a whisper. A sigh is a powerful expression because you are releasing, right? Whatever's pent up inside of you, you're releasing it with that sigh. that's what this eclipse feels like to me. This beautiful, like, I'm going to release. I'm going to stop holding on so tightly because I have a new beginning coming that I'm really excited about, and I'm going to let myself have it.
It's like a gentle let go.
It's a gentle let go. That's a beautiful way to say it. I also recently, in conversation with others, we were talking about the let them movement, this idea of let them. I think that also comes into play too.
Explain a little bit more about that for people.
So the idea of just let them. If they don't agree with you, let them. I'm doing me. If other people's actions aren't in alignment with yours, let them. It's not about I'm going to judge them or I'm going to combat against them or I'm going to stake my claim in the ground and say no. It's release. Let them. We all have our own journey, and other people's journeys impact you, right? We don't live in a bubble, but you're also not responsible for other people's journey.
The word I got as you're saying this was detach, almost like this word detach with the let go. Like it's a letting go, but it's just detach, like right? Detachment.
And if you follow that into the thread of the Aries Libra axis that we've been on since July of 2020, which really brought so loudly into the collective conversation the idea of codependence and narcissism. This conversation is no longer a unique set of topics that only people who are into psychology or mindfulness are talking about. It's in the daily vernacular. Codependence and narcissism, even if people don't understand what it really means. And also clearly understanding that we're not talking about a diagnosis, but traits, right? A continuum of traits. But this is what we've been moving through as a collective on this axis. And so how powerful is it when you are learning about the importance of detachment in relation to codependence? Because you have to detach from other people's reactions or outcomes in order to speak your truth or to live your truth. And if you are always putting other people's reactions and outcomes as the wall that stops you from being who you are or doing what you need to do, you lose out on you. And they lose out on you too. Honestly, everyone loses out on you. So this time, this eclipse, it just feels like we're coming to the end of all these lessons. It'll come back again. In 9 years, we'll have the reversal. And in 18 years, we'll be back in the same place. This is a constant cycle. But I feel like there's some really beautiful new beginnings that are available from letting go, from detaching, from that sigh. And the sigh and the letting go is not throwing your hands up in the air. It's just not holding on so tightly. And that beautiful grand trine of bringing in the masculine and the feminine and the beautiful determination and ability of Saturn to support you in this will allow you to have the conversation or take the action or receive even what you need to allow and receive in order to move through towards being more you, showing up more for yourself. So this time, Spirit wanted us to revisit or discuss how for each rising sign or how for each sign the Aries Libra axis shows up and what we've been working on since July of 2023 and where a release or a letting go may be happening and a new beginning that is saying, this is more me. This is what I need may be happening. So we're going to walk through that. So the question, the overarching question is, what can you let go of to balance the we versus the me? And if a person isn't part of the we, It's the concept, it's the job, it's the food, it's whatever the activity is, right? And bringing what can you let go of to bring that into balance to support what you need. So we're going to start right off with Aries, and this eclipse is opposite Aries. It's in Libra, which is directly opposite, which means that the eclipse is in the 7th house of one-on-one relationships. I thought this was a great place to start because that's what we keep talking about. It literally could be a business partner, a marriage partner, a contract that you say, I'm going to have to make a hard decision here in order to start new. This doesn't mean, I want to just be very careful to say, this doesn't mean you have to separate. It just means maybe letting go of a pattern that's not healthy in a relationship. That's an important distinction because it doesn't necessarily mean that all the Aries risings are going to head to divorce, right? It's about separating a pattern that's not so harmonious for your relationship. So can I learn to compromise and be in partnership? Because for that Aries, the work really is making sure it's not all about what they want, but we're actually in partnership. Or are you stopping yourselves from either being in a relationship or being authentic in a relationship because you're worried you can't be yourself and you're worried you're going to be trapped in a relationship? And so now you've been working on this. How do I still be me in a relationship? So that's what this axis has been about for the last year. For Taurus, rising and sun, we're looking at the axis of daily routines, service to others, and health versus mental health, lack of boundaries, the subconscious. And what I really got drawn to was this idea that how we show up for ourselves has a literal impact on our mental and physical health. So not having boundaries with others and being over of service to each other, or compromising our daily routines to where we're taking care of others instead of ourselves, that has a physical impact on our health, right? Stress of taking care of others and being in service of others to an unhealthy degree impacts our health. On the flip side, if we don't tend to our mental health or aren't honest with ourselves, that's the house of self-undoing. So it's like we can lie to ourselves that it's okay. I can take care of everybody else. I'm going to lie. And the lie is inside my head, in my subconscious saying, it's all okay. This is how it should be. But that's your own self-undoing of not taking yourself into consideration. So this is what Taurus has been working on. Gemini, the axis is your 5th and 11th house. So Libra is your 5th house and Aries is your 11th house. And these are about the relationship between 5th house, creativity, children, fun, entrepreneurship, personal joy, versus your hopes and wishes, communities, groups, networks, friendships. So have you found yourself having false starts with connecting with people? The Aries energy in this house, like you want to connect with people, but you don't want to lose yourself in people. You want to make sure that you still are your own identity in any group or network. And so then you just go, never mind. I'll just go back into where I feel safe in the Libra side of maybe focusing on my children, maybe focusing on my business. What are those patterns that pull yourself? It feels to me like pulling yourself into habits versus getting out there and really allowing yourself to be seen in the wider world. You're not going to lose yourself. We've learned how to not lose ourselves in these last year and a half. So, get out there. That's what that axis has been for Geminis. So for Cancers and Cancer rising, this axis has been about the 4th house and the 10th house. The 10th house is where you have Aries, And that is career, fame, reputation, public, how you're seen out in public and your legacy. And the fourth house is your Libra house, which is your family, your home, your ancestral lineage, and it's your emotional foundation too. It's the bottom of your chart. So for Cancers and Cancer rising, they've really been going on this back and forth between home versus career and reputation. And it's the beauty and harmony in the home is foundational for a Cancer. That's just who they are. Beauty and harmony in the home and family is the core for a Cancer. But there is also an individual drive for personal expression out in the world. And so it's this balance between, even though we know how important it is for a Cancer to have that home base, it's like their shell of the crab, it's their home, and that's where they feel safe. We have to be conscious to allow that to stop us from really getting out there and being seen. And maybe there is a career that is just something that's just for us. And it's okay to let go a little bit of whatever you feel your obligations are to others in your home space in order to fulfill your own personal career or legacy or public reputation goal. For Leo and Leo rising, we're looking at the axis between the third and the ninth house. So the third house is often referred to as your fishbowl. I've heard that from other astrologers. It's like your small little community, right? Everything that's in your neighborhood, your local environment. It's also your siblings or cousins. So it's that like close network, but not your nuclear family. It also has to do with quick, short trips, not big, huge travel. So the opposite side of that is the ninth house, which does have to do with foreign travel, culture, new worldviews, religion and spiritual beliefs, higher education, faith. So it's that you can feel the difference between the small bubble versus the expansiveness of the ninth house. So this is what Leo's been working on, small bubble versus bigger picture. So for the Libra house, where this South Node is, where this eclipse is, that's your small bubble. And the bigger picture is where you have that interest in moving towards, I need to do something for me. And so I actually know Leo rising who has really been doing that this last year. Like I just set aside what they were doing and started traveling and started saying, I need to do this for me. And it's this idea of letting go of the ties that keep you feeling trapped inside your little fishbowl because you are feeling this call to expand and travel and broaden knowledge and broaden beliefs. So if it's just related to spiritual or religious development, maybe you are feeling, I need to explore a different type of religious or spiritual community. The one I'm in feels oppressive, or I feel too obligated to or too tied to, and I have an interest in expanding and growing. So again, we're going to keep coming back to wherever this Libra house is, where are you feeling obligated? And how can you let go of the obligation and bring that into a harmony of, I want to be here. I like to do this to this level. Beyond that, I need to let go so I can be me too. So when we look at Virgo and Virgo rising, we're looking at the second and eighth house axis, and that's all about money. It's all about assets. And so it's either my assets or shared assets. And really what I feel about this one is, what is your relationship with money? Because the phrase came to me, what is mine is yours and what is yours is mine. Or what is mine and what is yours is mine. Which one of those feels more balanced? So that's what we're looking at, right? We're looking at bringing into the what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine into balance. And there may have been some balancing between the desire to use assets towards creating a beautiful life versus stuff like long-term investments and taxes and and responsibilities, right? So Libra is the second house of wanting to make the beautiful life part. So I think that Virgos and Virgo risings maybe have been going back and forth over the last year or so about maybe I need to be investing. Maybe I need to consider retirement. Am I setting up an inheritance for my children? And just going back and forth about how you're in relationship with money and maybe where you want to find balance there. So Libra and Libra rising, this eclipse is happening in the first house of you and the Aries side. So this is the same as Aries. Like now we're at the point where we're going to flip. It's the same pair of houses, but looking at it from the other way. So now the Libra is going, do I lose myself in relationships? Do I allow the assertive needs of my partners to come first? Because it is possible that the Libra just wants harmony and they'll partner with someone who they defer to. And so this is am I compromising myself and just deferring to my partner, whether it's marriage or business? So that's what we're looking at for Libras and Libras risings. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, we're again on the 12th and 6th axis of health and mental health. But the difference, the flip side of it is, are we retreating into our subconscious realms? And the Scorpios like to go deep. They like to really investigate the subconscious. But that could also lead to your own self-undoing because you're not getting out there and taking care of yourself and your physical health. You're compromising your daily routines and the needs of self by digging deep into this subconscious space. And it could even be, they just dropped in this image of, because you want to psychoanalyze everybody else in your life instead of taking care of yourself. The Scorpios do like that whole psychoanalysis bit. Or are you so concerned about the mental health of everyone else that you're not recognizing that you also need to be concerned about your own physical health? Okay, so we're going to move into Sagittarius, which is on the axis of the 11th and 5th house. It's similar to what we were saying with Gemini, but we're flipping it. So Sagittarius, have you overcommitted yourself to groups and networks and communities and being out there and doing everything for everyone on a big scale versus making sure you're doing the things that individually bring you joy, which might be on a smaller scale? It might be, they just gave me this thing. I'm not a Sagittarius, but they'll give me a life story as an example. When I was a Girl Scout troop leader and spent more energy focusing on making sure I got everything done for the Girl Scout troop and all the organization, as opposed to making sure that the time spent with my daughter was valued. So this is what you're going back and forth between, right? Because the whole reason I was going to be a Girl Scout leader for her was because I thought this will be a great opportunity for us to connect. And instead I found myself saying, I need you not to bother me because I'm trying to prep everything for the meeting, right? That didn't go well. I had to bring that back into balance. So this is like that idea with Sagittarius. Are you doing for others and not giving to your children, to your creative time, to just having fun, to your joy? Okay, so for Capricorns and Capricorn rising, we're on that 10th house and 4th house axis again of career and reputation versus home and family life. But now it's the other way around, which makes a lot of sense for a Capricorn, that our Libra house is in the 10th house. And so we really tie career, public reputation, and legacy to others and getting validation from others. So I can really relate to this because I am a Capricorn rising. Do we have workaholic tendencies from a codependent place? Are we putting more time into our work and career? This is really career, not just a job, right? Are we putting more time into our career so that we can stand on top of the mountain and be praised for all we've done, and we're neglecting our foundation, our home, our family, our emotional well-being? putting that all aside because I have to get my work done. And you don't really have to get your work done, but that's where you find validation. So this is where it's like, how can we let go of that need for validation through career and balance out your home and family and emotional needs? Okay, so Aquarius, we're talking about the ninth and the third axis again, but in reverse. So Aquarius and Aquarius rising, your Libra house is your ninth house. So we're looking, where do we maybe need to let go in this bigger picture, in our spiritual beliefs, in our religious views, are we taking more obligation and importance into the harmony of the world or the harmony of our spiritual community or our religious community and not bringing it back down into our small bubble? So again, it's that same story with the Sagittarius, but with the little twist of this is really about I'm so driven to get validation from working towards my PhD or because I'm so cultured or as a spiritual leader and forgetting my neighborhood, my people closest to me, my local community needs me too. And so that's what Aquarius is working on, is balancing those pursuits that are more worldly to be more present in your local environment. And then last but not least, Pisces and Pisces rising. We're back on that money axis of taxes, resources, other people's money, and then assets like we were with Virgo. The difference is the flip, which is, have you been putting so much focus on creating a nest for others versus making sure you're being provided for in the present? So the way I see that happening is I have to make sure that I put enough into my 401k so that my children will have an inheritance. I'm going to sacrifice my needs now. And it's not about one or the other. It's about bringing that into balance. And that idea of I'm focusing on that because it's the right thing to do versus I'm also worthy of my resources. So this is I'm going to squirrel everything away for others versus making sure I'm also taken care of now and bringing that back into harmony. And maybe it's still very important to you because your Libra house is the 8th house and you feel that creating investments for the relationships in your life, for providing resources for others matters to you as a Pisces. But just remember not to sacrifice. It's like what we've been talking about so much about how caretakers and healers will often sacrifice their own well-being for others. Pisces, as an empathic sign, they're very intuitive, they're feelers. And so remember, don't just feel for others, but feel for yourself in this money axis. So we made it through all of them. So those are the areas that this eclipse is really going to show up. And I just want to come back and wrap it all up. And a couple things. Remember that even though the theme was you can do hard things, and balancing relationships in my life with my own needs is important, we have a beautiful grace and a softness in the skies to help us do this. So you can do it, and it might be hard, but you'll be happy for it. And you'll be supported in the taking the action and the new beginning that comes from.
So much of what you're saying, when I feel into the word hard, it's like just an uncomfortableness, right? And so sometimes we can, I think, catastrophize, like what does doing hard things mean? But I think it's like this discomfort, like an extreme discomfort. And so does that feel right to you?
Absolutely. And I remember a conversation I had before where I was saying, I don't know, I held a boundary and I felt awful. And I thought, I must not have done it right because I feel terrible. And what I was reminded is it just feels bad because it's different and new, not because it's wrong. It wasn't It was discomfort that I was feeling. It wasn't wrong. And I felt mean holding a boundary, but it wasn't. It was me standing up for me. And that was uncomfortable because I hadn't done it very often.
Yeah, anytime we change a pattern, we are going to be uncomfortable. I'm not someone that is used to standing up for myself, but as I have the courage to step into that more and more, it is uncomfortable, like a visceral feeling of discomfort. And that's what makes it feel hard. It's not actually hard. It is just ridiculously uncomfortable to change a pattern. And so I think that's what we should remind people about. Hard doesn't have to be some doom and gloom kind of thing, but rather it feels hard because it's so uncomfortable to change these familiar patterns.
And it's because you matter. And so that's why it's important to allow yourself to sit in the discomfort if it means that you are showing up for yourself.
Totally. I have loved this conversation. I hope everybody got their nuggets for their particular signs. And if you want to learn more about Catherine and her services, you can go to the show notes where all of her information about how to connect with her is there. And thanks for listening as always, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the Guided Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you would share it with a friend or even leave me a review so we can ensure that it makes its way into the ears of listeners who need to hear these messages most. Until next time, may you remember how guided you truly are.